Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode.
Good afternoon and welcome to Northern Powerhouses Business Success Stories. So we have Nathan Collins with us this afternoon, who's the director at PAVillion. So hi Nathan, thank you ever so much for joining us. Can I just ask you to start off by telling us a little bit more, can you introduce yourself properly and tell us a little bit more about what it is you guys do?
Yeah, thank you for that intro, Vicky. So I represent PAV. We're now rebranding ourselves to be called PAVillion. We've been in the IT industry since 1988. We provide good services and IT support to customers. We're UK-based, offices in Leeds as well as just outside of Gatwick. But again, about 300 customers that we're serving at this stage. So that's what we're doing. Vicky.
Brilliant. So can you tell us how the last 12 months has been for you guys and how the events of the last year have affected you?
Well, if you look at us first, we made some interesting decisions around 2018, October, November. And those decisions really set us up very well to handle this as an organisation. We looked at cloud first. We're an IT services company, and we decided to take a view of what was coming. So we decided to remove our own on-premise infrastructure and go for cloud, ERP, CRM, finance packages, communications went entirely virtual, got rid of all of our traditional telephony, and we started to deleverage the needs to have facilities. So we then started to right-size the offices based simply on the need to have hot desking. So we really set ourselves up ahead of the curve for what became, offices no one could get in. Are they even COVID compliant? We didn't need to worry about that because we'd already put into effect an awful lot of changes, which meant that we were agile to this sort of environment. So that's us. Now, that experience is extremely relevant to most customers that are considering transformation. And now if a client says that regards their IT investment estate, they're not transforming, they're remiss of what's happening in the environment. The workplace changes in the last 12 months have meant that most organizations have transformed somehow, somewhere. Most have looked at Microsoft type technologies, Office 365 subscriptions, but then they've started to look at the security of that. So our experience ourselves around our facilities and our technology stack really does resonate very well with customers who have started that journey in the last 6-9 months. So we are practicing what we preach, and we're delivering to them solutions that really are accommodating what we've found and tried in practice. Just today, we launched a modern workplace case study for a not-for-profit called Better Leeds, which is an organization that did exactly this at the start of the pandemic as well. So virtual technology, Azure, Office 365, telephony systems that were IP based, and that is delivered directly as a result of our own experiences and the stack that we're putting together. Does that make sense, Vicky?
It does indeed. So how have your team been? How has the last year been for those guys, and how have they been affected?
Well, they've gone in the 2 years from expectation of being office-based to an expectation that we may well be able to deliver to them an office that they're able to come and hot desk at more consistently. So, I've run a couple of events with other customers of ours who are specifically focused as consultancy organizations in the healthcare and well-being space. So we've run an awful lot of well-being activities around mental state of individuals. So my staff themselves are looking forward to our first sales kickoff together. learning together and actually seeing each other in the flesh, not touching. That's not COVID compliant. But team building has become virtual, which has got positives, and it's also got an extraordinary number of negatives with regards to isolation and work never leaving the home. That's a problem. So they're looking forward to the next 12 months, and a lot of us are in our late 30s, early 40s, starting to become vaccinated, which means the future's looking brighter for a change. So that's the staff that we have and what our outlook looks like, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does indeed. I mean, what about for you as a leader, then, Nathan? So with everything that the last year has thrown at you as a business owner and a leader of people, how have you had to adapt your leadership style?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. My leadership style since about 2015 has been virtual teams. So in 2015, I ran a global operations business for a company called Commvault, and we had offices in Austin, Texas, Chicago, New York, Sydney, as well as UK, Utrecht, Oberhausen in Germany. So I'm used to running virtual teams. So this to me is not really a thing, but what is a thing is my teams work together. They were never in isolation. Now they're in isolation, and this team, their well-being is something that's really important. So you do virtual things. So we have run activities together with wine and cheese tasting, all the sort of things you do to pull things in, crazy, clothing, Hawaiian shirts and that sort of stuff, just to try to foster what you have in a more traditional physical world, if you know what I mean. But it is really hard. So, regards to the technical teams, you have to give them bench time and tell them it's about enabling them. As an organization, we are profitable, still have maintained a very healthy standing. So we're trying to ensure our staff understand that we're investing in them, and we're doubling down on that. So, training, accreditation, timeouts to pass exams, to sit and take the enablement, that helps well-being and have a positive mindset for the staff. And sales guys, again, they do have to train, enable, and accredit, but they also have to sell stuff. So they still have to do their weekly rev calls with me. Those haven't improved, so I can assure you. I enjoy them, even if they don't.
Brilliant. So I mean, a lot of people that I speak to, a lot of business owners that I speak to will say, a big challenge for them was adapting their style and taking care of the team when all of a sudden they were plunged into remote working and managing a team in that manner. This, is clearly something that you're very used to and you guys are set up for. So what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you guys have had to overcome?
So imagine this, we're an IT support organization, and traditionally our customers have people in offices. It literally, when Boris Johnson came onto the podium and said, "You must stay home," can you imagine the 3 or 4 days when there was whisperings in the streets, and all organizations within our customer base that take our support services were hearing that staff changes were going to come very quickly. So we had to develop a brand new support style. Now, we sat here in our own locations. Maybe that's BT broadband, Virgin broadband, whoever. This is very different to when you're in an office and the core network's provided through dedicated lease lines, etc. So all of a sudden, the IT is entirely different. And it's different per employee that we're supporting. We've got 45,000 employees that take our support services through our 300 customers. And all of a sudden, every aspect of why they could be calling us is human, personal to that individual. Have they even updated the firmware on their firewall? Have they even got a network switch? Have they even got an environment that's separated from their children? So who's been using that device? And those are the questions changed. So no longer was that firewall that sat in there that we know everything about even being used. and all of a sudden clients wanting to change the security profile, add virtual private networks, add two-factor authentication, train all their staff concurrently, and having 7 or 8 customers, with each with hundreds of clients, saying, can we do this next Monday? Oh, hell. So it has been a huge challenge regards to these massive quick adoptions. Now, we have been telling our clients to make more changes around modern workplace, and this is a hugely beneficial thing. And the only way of looking at COVID is in terms of the green agenda, in terms of the modernization of how employees are allowed to interface with work. It's a very positive thing if you look at it like that. But it has taken something like COVID to make those changes, but now those changes are forever. So it's a good thing ultimately. A lot of pain has happened along the way and a lot of personal tragedy. But if you look at the amount of traffic taken off roads, probably permanently, the adjustment in working practices in those offices, not necessarily on factory floors, but again, automation is a thing. These things are now dialed in for the medium to longer term, and the expectation from the employees is absolutely set in there. I mean, I'm hearing stories from organizations where people are voting with their feet if the working practices are not appropriate to their lifestyle choices now. People are choosing holiday locations, home locations that are far different to 12, 18 months ago, because now that dial-in has occurred regards to work-life balance. And has it affected productivity within my team and the customers that are modern? No, probably hasn't. Probably has improved productivity. And so there's a lot of issues up front, but I think those organizations that grappled with those early or prepared for them in advance of time have been set up in a very, very positive way for their futures. And I think PAVillion have done a really fantastic thing in 2018, 2019, and have modernized ahead of this curve. So for us, it's no big deal.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But can you share with us some of the wins that you've seen over the last 12 months, some real positives for you guys?
Yeah, so we got lots of client wins all of the time, but to work with I mentioned earlier, Better Leeds, not for profit, to help a charity based in Leeds to take their traditional environment to protect themselves against the new challenges, cybersecurity threats that they were experiencing prior, to modernize with Office, with new telephony systems based on IP, to transition them over to this new platform just ahead of time was a fantastic success for us. But as our website testifies right now, we've got about 21 case studies, all where we're developing either modern workplace, data governance, or transformation solutions for them. And if you look at about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we really didn't invest the time in talking about those stories at all. But now we are, because I think what differentiates organizations such as mine from others is that for us, it's more about the journey and understanding why that journey is essential for clients to be making versus just flogging IT equipment, which I'm sorry to say happens far too often in this industry. So hopefully those individuals who look at our website will see that we're slightly different to that mold. Not that we don't mind selling technology, but there needs to be a reason. Because about 65% of the revenue that we have is actually not technology, it's these services wrapped around the technology and the reasons for delivering those. And there's always a reason. No one buys stuff because they just woke up one day and goes, I'm going to buy a £20,000 printer. Are you? Why? Okay. Then you find out it's a 3D printer, and because it's going to cut the cost of the widget that they're creating from pounds into pence, and make each one of these widgets created within minutes rather than days. That's the sort of transformations that we're trying to power.
Brilliant. Now you mentioned a few minutes ago that you guys, in light of people working in isolation, you've really focused and honed in on taking care of your team's well-being. Are there any other adaptations that you guys have had to make that you think you might actually keep hold of moving forward as we move into this new normal?
So whilst we deleveraged the needs for facilities, and that's office space, what we had was probably 5,000 square feet of office, traditional office space prior. And we've torn that in more than half. I think we may have about 2,000 square foot right now, so it's at more than half. But it's the quality of the space that's most important. So as you ask individuals to work remotely, by the way, their contracts typically now say you work from home and you go every now and then to customers and to our own office locations. I want our staff to come to one of our locations. So I'm going to make the office as lovely, almost like a boutique hotel with nice settings, nice furnishings. And that's what we are going to attempt to achieve. So people will want every now and then, there's no requirement, it's up to their workload commitments and meeting requirements to come and socialize and be in a quality environment. So rather than looking at what can we afford to sit everyone in it, looking at what can we build such that people will want to come, and obviously they'll have to register for space at those locations, those times, because it's not going to be for everyone. And I think that's what, from the conversations I'm having with business owners, they're also looking at. So how do we attract staff to come in to socialize with us so that we can know that they're fine and so forth? Well, we're going to need to make the office environment better. We're no longer looking at 100% floor space for sitting everyone. We're now looking at 30%. But what does that 30% look like? What could it look like? How can it be a manifestation of everything we want to achieve with our staff? And I think that's the journey that we're on next, and that will improve the well-being of the staff who are attaining or coming into these facilities. And be pleased to. Now, I'm not going to say we'll be like we work with beer on tap, because I work in sales, and that would be dangerous for productivity, as I mentioned. But it's moving in that sort of direction of adding value to their lives.
Brilliant. What do you think the team are most looking forward to as we come out and there is light at the end of the tunnel, of everything we've experienced in the last year? What do you think the team are most looking forward to?
Well, can you imagine a sales organization doesn't meet people?
Absolutely not. It must be so difficult for them.
So it is, and Zoom meetings, Teams and Ring Central and other providers are available. Goes so far. But when you've got customers who are investing heavily in your organization, who require your support to get them out of the most severe IT issues, and yet have not met with us in 12 months, whites of the eye, handshake, coffee together. That is extraordinarily difficult to maintain relationships. So the sales staff and myself, we're starting to actually meet clients again, socially distanced, COVID rules, obviously in place. But this is only just starting to occur. I'm actually starting to see and routinely see expenses for travel, which is a good thing. It's a phenomenal way of meeting with clients. So that's what we really are looking forward to. Paradoxically, is to meet clients. Why? Because that hasn't had much, requirement in the last 12 months. In fact, clients are going, hell no, do not come to my sites. We'll do this remotely if you don't mind. But now it's a case of, we would like to see you and understand your value to us, what we can do next, and what we're doing now. Normality is starting to return to their environments as well. Some of our customers had revenues that were decimated by 90+%. We've got within our customer base leisure centers, with 30 leisure centers. One of our clients, they've had no footfall for 7 months. So, you're talking about huge organizational issues, and of course, they're now looking at accelerating their transformational programs so they can drive cost reduction. And given that they've still got the 30 leisure centers, the cost reduction isn't going to be, staff. What can we do with our IT estates so that we can serve our services to clients who are now dying to come into the swimming pool? Anyhow, so customer meetings, we're looking forward to them.
Brilliant. And what would you say is the biggest learning that you've had over the last year?
It really is to understand that this work-life balance, which was always a problem to every leader, and every business owner out there is even worse now that there is no work and life. It is in the same house. So I've got salespeople who would use the corner of a kitchen whilst the children were homeschooling. The dishwasher would be on, the tumble dryer would be breaking down, the cat would be coming across the desk, and they're trying to keep their composure during rev calls with me or customer calls and so forth. And I think that is that's been a huge focus of, look, we're doing our job. Even our customers have these issues. Even our suppliers have these issues. Everyone has now been normalized to understand that this is a problem. So just calm down, relax. Let's get through our days, and that day doesn't have to be 9 till 5. You know, adapt to the life cycle of what your home is like and your customer requirements are. That's a bit later. Start later. That's cool. If you start early, that's also cool. But it's understanding that each individual has got a different set of circumstances, and to give them the freedom and flexibility. Now, their sales, and I've obviously got other functions that roll in that have key performance indicators, satisfaction of tickets, etc. Customer satisfaction is critically important. So there will be a stick if they ever mess around. But you know, the reality of the situation is, if you hire the right people, which we have, then you don't need to tell them what to do on an hourly basis. They will do what they, you know, if they're stakeholders within your business, which we're trying to develop here at PAVillion, then they will do the right thing more than average, which is what you can expect. And I have to force them to have holidays as well. So I know you can't go anywhere, but you need to have some downtime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go out, you know, take your loved ones, enjoy your long weekends, but you know, well-being is really important. So being tuned in more than ever to that has been really, really important. It's not just an indulgence for leadership anymore, it's essential.
It really is. Really is. Thank you so much, Nathan. Thank you ever so much for chatting with us and sharing how the last year has looked for you and those experiences that you've had. It's really valuable to us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Vicky.
Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.